Claybon in the Mark Sessler chair. Gentlemen, how are you?
I'm doing great. I like that our house band, the guitar player, was really getting with it at the end.
He was working the whammy bar there.
It serves the energy, and I'm glad. I'm glad to have it and to be with you guys. Obviously, wish Mark could be here, but
Great to have
any
you,
chance I
Patrick.
can spend with you guys is great.
We love having Patrick here. If you are familiar with our voices, it's because you listen to the Around the NFL podcast 4 times a week, including our Thursday night preview show, which you can check out, our Thursday night recap of Bengals Jags, which you can check out. But now we have a whole other bunch of games to talk about, and we do it in a specific style. We give everybody, I call it the old Inside the NFL treatment, the old HBO show. Every team gets love. 2 minutes on the clock. We talk about all 32. So let's get going, Greg. Let's start with the AFC East. And I know you've been putting this off as long as you could. You didn't want to talk about your boy, Tom Brady, going back to Foxborough. But now here we are. Take it away.
Well, instead of kind of getting into like the mini drama and how they feel
it's not a mini
on
drama.
the inside, well, it's a maxi
It's a large
It's a
drama.
maxi drama.
It's a big drama. I just look at this Patriots team and I kind of think they have the same problems that they did when Tom Brady was still on the team back in 2019. Do they have a skill position problem? Because they didn't know how to run an offense back in 2019 that maximized Tom Brady, that made him look good. And it was partly because of the players around him. And I feel like I'm kind of watching that same offense right now. They signed a lot of receivers. They signed the tight ends. They're not playing well, Claybon.
And it's as you said, a consistent problem. Do we think Mac Jones is going to make the problem better? No, they've got a rookie quarterback as well, and you wondered what the buildup. All of it was about. You think back to the offseason, it's like, oh, this is something. They've got the skill position players that work around Cam Newton. Then Cam's gone, Mac's the quarterback, and the Saints really exposed them. They asked them to do something that's honestly hard to do for anybody to do, and they just couldn't do it.
And this, I know this is disappointing, obviously, for Patriots fans, because when Tom Brady left and went to Tampa, a lot of the discussion was he doesn't have the surrounding cast, and timing-wise, it didn't work out for the Patriots to be aggressive in free agency. They were aggressive, and yet it seems like they're not any better, at least around the quarterback.
And I think they'll get better. I think Mac Jones will get better. I actually think this game against Todd Bowles, who takes so many risks, they could look better offensively than maybe any point this season. But I think it gets to the point of team building that it's like, oh, yeah, Tom Brady made all those skill position guys look better. Tom Brady made your offensive line look better, and you can't count on Mac Jones to do that. And I guess I'm getting to the point where I can't count on Josh McDaniels to do that either. It was more about Brady. To me, it's not like, oh, Brady or Belichick. No, it's like Brady or McDaniels. It's Brady, obviously.
And you could see Tom's frustration with Josh numerous times during their tenure together. Perhaps it's the elephant in the room. Let's address it.
I got lost in your shirt, Greg.
I love it.
It reminds me of like a Rivers Cuomo. We were talking about Weezer earlier this week. We put on some horn-rimmed glasses right now.
I've seen him, a Santa Monica resident like myself. I've seen him walking around, so I would love to hang out with Rivers.
Looking. Let's get focused. The Buffalo Bills. Man, you know, they won't admit it, but Bills fans, a little bit of a when they watched the Week 3 game, because Josh Allen looked exactly like the guy was last year, which led to the massive contract. And my question to you, and I'll start with you, Patrick, on this one is,
let's do it.
With the offense humming and the defense beating up on teams, is this by far the best team in the AFC right now? Ooh. And are they the heavy favorite to get that #1 seed?
It's tough to say that they're the heavy favorite. I'm not panicking on the Chiefs losing a couple of games to a couple of good teams.
Tough division, though. They're going to be beating up on each other.
They are. And in the path ahead, honestly, if you go up and down the schedule, especially, as you mentioned, in the division, it works. But as a clear favorite here at week number 4, I don't see it. I am glad the sigh of relief was shared. Of course, for those of us in the fantasy world who took Stephon.
Another humble brag. He's hosting the fantasy show
Greg,
4 times a week.
No, that obviously needs to be out there as well. Patrick Claybon, you're the host of the fantasy show. That's nice.
Well, it's because of you guys.
Alan's that dude, you know. Emmanuel
Right.
Sanders is that dude.
Yeah.
Stephon Diggs will be that dude.
Glad to see them getting healthy. But clear favorite, no.
Part of the reason, though, also, Greg, is, and we talked about it, and I'm a Jets fan, you're a Patriots fan. We like the Dolphins, what Brian Flores is doing down there, and they have pieces there, too. You kind of saw the AFC East as a stronger division in August than perhaps it is now in October, and that, to me, plays into why I think the Bills are going to stack wins.
Absolutely. The AFC West is so so good. And the AFC North, I think, is still very competitive, that the Bills have a clear path. I do think they have the highest ceiling of any team in the AFC, maybe in the entire NFL. They are the one team, I guess you could throw the Rams in, but the one team in the AFC where I look at it and think that could be, if everything goes right, a top 5 offense and a top 5 defense. And that's tough to beat. I don't know if they'll get there, but I don't know if there's any other teams like that out there.
Yeah, especially considering the injuries that have happened in other places, other spots in the AFC. TJ Watt, I think, is huge because we saw the impact that he had against them in the first game. But it's a long season, and longest one ever, in case you haven't heard.
It is the biggest season ever. And we saw it last year, by the way, with the Bucs. It's all about timing. You have a lot of potential on offense, on defense, but make sure it happens in January and into February. Right now, the Bills.
That
spot
that buzzer went off though, but you're like
this
the
is
host,
transition.
So you just
this is transitional conversation.
Yeah, Dan's getting it to me because I have to get
Pat Claybon. He told me it's okay to call him Pat.
And then he said he wasn't going to do it.
And then I did on the Dolphins.
I don't mind. After hearing it, it works out.
It does. Sounds nice.
Because we've looked at this and said, well, the division for the Bills is easy. I'm not sure it is. Jacoby looked great.
Okay.
But he looked great in the 2-minute periods, right? At the end of the game, at the end of the half.
That's fair.
And my question is about play calling. How does play calling work in Miami? And does it work?
It's funny because you were on the NFC side of the show last week. My question was, should they add a third offensive coordinator in Miami to fix their problems?
This is also a Mark Sessler chair thing, too. This has been on his radar.
So obviously we're still asking questions in a cute way, but about the Dolphins offense and whether it's good enough simply, right?
I don't think it's good enough because the offensive line is ranked dead last in Pro Football Focus's pass blocking ratings. If you watch their games, that is not remotely a surprise. It is a mess. I don't think going from Tua to Jacoby Brissett is a huge downgrade. I think they can win their game this week against the Colts. I think the defense is still dangerous, but there's no reason to think after 3 years they're going to suddenly solve this offensive line. The disappointing part, I think, if you're running this team, Chris Greer, Brian Flores, is they've put a lot of resources into it. Those are all first and second round picks that are struggling. It's like those are all the picks you got for Laramie Tunsil that everyone said you were really smart to make that trade. Like, it'd be great to have Laramie Tunsil right now.
Yeah, it would be great to be good at something, and it gets thrown around so much. Like, this team's going to find an identity. Well, what does that mean?
They're good at coverage, but they're not good at anything on offense.
Nothing at offense, and I would just like to see some sort of plan. Some sort of cohesive plan. You saw it last year, and you wondered if it was the quarterbacks. Well, they need to do this with Fitz and this with Tua, but now it's what do they do? What are they good at?
Yeah, that to me strikes me as one of those Patrick Claybon things that would sneaky annoy you when people are like, "What's this team's identity?" What does that even mean? Do they move the ball? Or they don't move the ball. That's all that ultimately matters.
The name's on the jersey.
Are they good at anything though? They added all these guys on the outside, Fuller and Waddle. Let's use them.
And what's Tua's timetable? Is he?
He's on IR, so he will miss this week and next, at the very least.
All right, Greg, close it out with my downtrodden New York Jets.
I like you giving me the Jets this week. I think I have the same message. It's just a message to Zach. Like, well, let's see some progress this week.
Fair.
This is the week to do it. It's the Titans defense. I'm not scared of them, not scared of their pass rush. We've had some tough matchups. Let's just see some progress. Trevor Lawrence, great Thursday night game. Not looking for them to win necessarily. That'd be nice. But let's just have some good plays. Let's start seeing some positive plays out of this passing game with Zach Wilson. That's it.
Jets are averaging, I think, 6.5 points a game through 3 weeks. It's been grim. And what we were told going into the season is that this Mike LaFleur offense, which is a Kyle Shanahan offense, is about making a setup that's good for a young quarterback. It's predicated off the run. It's big on play action. But no one's been worse at play action than Zach Wilson right now. So we need to get this thing figured out. I am not panicking because I think they just got caught really with some bad luck with the schedule and a rookie quarterback that's trying to feel out some things and some injuries. But if they don't make progress, Patrick, against a Tennessee defense that's middle of the pack at best, averaging 28 points per game, I'll be very nervous. It's a home game, too.
And there were some traditional defenses that have been good for a while in terms of the Jets' first 3 games. And you could wonder, is that those teams playing the Jets, or is that – we're going to find out. Because this Titans defense isn't good, and it hasn't been good in recent years. It's actually gotten worse every single year in the Vrabel era. And you do get concerned, but not like super concerned. We're not ready to punt on the kid's career because they struggled in 4 games.
Elijah Moore is suffered a concussion last week. He's out. Jameson Crowder has missed the whole season. He should be in. He has the groin. And Denzel Mims, remember that guy? Second-round pick, toolsy as hell, big playmaker who got into the doghouse under Robert Saleh. It looks like they have to play him, and I would love to see him make some plays and earn the trust of his coach, because that's been frustrating for Jets fans.
They should be able to protect. The Titans gave Bud Dupree a lot of money, not getting a lot of production so far. Not a lot of pass rush in Tennessee in general. They should be able to make some plays.
All right. We're just getting going here. This is exciting. Coming up next on the broadcast, the AFC North. Gotta love what you're seeing out of that division so far. Depends who you're talking about, though. Up next on the broadcast.
Dan just luxuriating in that pause.
Oh, yeah, we're back. Welcome back to the Around the NFL broadcast presented by the United States Marine Corps. All the Marines crowd around the barracks watching the program. I love that vision. That's happening. Love you. Thank you for supporting us. Patrick, AFC North.
I'm looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers, and the question that I have is we're all concerned about Big Ben and his arm, and can he get the ball down the field? No targets longer than 20 yards, and very few for the wide receivers. Has Matt Canada done enough for us to not think he's a part of this too, Dan?
Blame Canada.
Canada.
That's where we're going here. I don't know, man. I really don't know how you can separate. I know it's a new offense coordinator, and we're not doing much here. But when you got a QB that might be washed, what are you going to do?
These highlights aren't helping me at all.
Look, they're kind of running the similar game plan to last year with the last few games. And
how'd that work out?
We know that doesn't work. To answer your question, Clay, I mean, sure, he could be part of it, but the offensive line and the running game are so bad. And it was sort of lost, like when they lost Mike Munchak, which I think to the Broncos at the time, they had one of the best offensive lines in Pittsburgh for years. It has never been the same since, and it's devolved every year, and now it's at the point where it's the worst or one of the worst. They put all their resources into their running game, and they are the worst running team in the league statistically, and they are the pass-heaviest team in the league statistically. So to me, it's more than Canada. It's like, it's Mike Tomlin hiring Canada. It's the vision of the organization, which comes from the ownership to prioritize running. Like, it's everything.
I remember it was perhaps 3 years ago, right? The 54 kids incident with reference to the way that they view the team and the way that they view Ben. So much of the way the offense is constructed kind of starts with Ben. and you have to make decisions. There was an Arians situation, right? You go back
when they forcibly retired him. Remember that? They released the statement that said Bruce Arians retired, and he was like, "What?"
That's news to me.
That's Super Bowl champion.
Yeah, I think you can blame Ben, but like he's a part of the decision to make these decisions as well. So.
All right, but ultimately
goes right to the top. He's saying,
I know, but it's the children and Ben separated. But ultimately, you have bosses that I think maybe a little more foresight. They don't have any protection if this is who Ben now is, and it's going to be a tough season if there's no improvement. But we can blame the OC if we want.
We'll blame everybody.
Ravens. It just can't be the Lamar and Tucker show in Baltimore, and that's how they won that game against Detroit. A game they had no business winning. They got the big conversion to Sammy Watkins on 4th down, and then Tucker hits the 66-yarder, which still boggles my mind that happened. But there's not enough balance here, Greg. They have to get better on defense. They need to get more consistent on offense. I'm looking at you, Hollywood Brown. Be better as a team, Ravens, because we know there's a high ceiling here.
Yeah, I think their running game needs to be better. It's been okay at times, but this is a week against Denver where they're kind of begging you to run. Can they actually do it? It's been erratic. I mean, Lamar leads the league in yards per completion. He's going deep down the field a lot more. That's kind of been their thing. And he leads the league in yards per carry. He's 4th in the league in rushing right now. Of anyone, not just quarterbacks. So I hate to say this, and I know Claybon's with me as a Lamar fan. There is part of the Lamar experience right now, because there's less around him and the defenses were, that it's almost more fun to watch. Like, it's stressful, but him having to absolutely carry him, like, it's a show. It's a show every week.
It is a show, but as you said, as a person who would like Lamar to be successful, people are wondering if the flip is responsible for his back pain. And, maybe carrying the team is what's responsible for Lamar's back pain, and it hurts.
He did practice Friday, though. That's good.
Probably was the flip, though. Because the other thing's not an actual physical.
The most painful thing is watching Hollywood drop 3 touchdowns.
Oh, brutal.
In this highlight sequence. And
eat it up, Hollywood.
Eventual point, right, where, yeah, Justin Tucker at this rate is going to be in the Hall of Fame. Lamar is spectacular. They can do it, but how long can you do this? And I don't think it could be. Rashad Bateman comes back. Villanueva's playing much better. They've figured out whatever happened where it looked like Max Crosby was going to Canton as well in the opener. But they need more.
Yeah, and I think I have him at number 5 in the power rankings. So I still see them as a superpower that is just figuring some things out. But they got very lucky at Ford Field. Up next, the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to keep rolling here.
It's all you, right?
No, I got this one.
Oh,
I see clarity on the Browns.
Oh,
help me, Week 4. Help me. I like the Browns. I have them at number 8 in the power rankings. This is now becoming the power rankings show. I apologize. But I have them there, and I've left them there for a month now because they've shown me enough in their 2 wins to say, okay, we're heading in the right direction. They showed me enough and hanging with the Chiefs in Week 1. That was cool, too. But now they have a big-time opponent in Week 4, and I want to see what happens when the chips are down and you're not just running through the Chicago Bears offensive line. I want to see them win a game against a contender, and then we get that chance this week.
To me, I have clarity. I guess I want to see their defense, continue to evolve and see what they're like against another juggernaut offense, which looks very similar to Cleveland by design, because Clint Kubiak's there. Kevin Stefanski used to work with him. He was there for a decade. He's kind of the guy that got away for the Vikings ownership, and it's 2 very similar offense. But I don't need clarity. They're an elite offense. They are a top 5 offense. And that's all I need to know, that they should have a chance or a good chance to win every
Top 5.
Yep.
Okay. Something to see, right? Jadeveon Clowney and Myles Garrett meeting at Justin Fields. I'm sure it was rough for Justin Fields to see. But the promise is delivered there, and I'm wondering if the clarity you seek, Dan, is within you. There's a reluctance, perhaps, to say, okay, Cleveland, this is a really good team.
You were going to lock up the Vikings this week. You
almost
didn't do
did.
it, but you think the Vikings might win this game.
But I like the Vikings a lot. I think I'm just not sold totally on the Browns yet. I also see that there is an upside here where they are a top 5 team. But are they like a top 5 team or like the 12th or 13th best team? I haven't quite figured that out yet. I feel like I'm kind of on an island on this. Everybody else seems to be totally sold on them, but I seek the clarity. It's within me.
Yeah.
You're right, Pat.
OBJ changes their team if he continues to play like he was last week. You get Landry back. But it's the defense. If the defense is even average, then they're going to be great.
It's time for Fighting Spirit, presented by the United States Marine Corps. Patrick, talk Bengals.
Let's talk about the team that won last night. A thriller, a great Thursday night football game between the Bengals and the Jags. And my question was coming in before the game was about this rush defense that had held everybody collectively. The stars they played, Dalvin Cook, Najee Harris, none of them topped 60 yards. But James Robinson wiped that out away. But it was a fantastic finish. My question is this the best season to be a Bengals fan since?
Oh, wow.
When?
Well, I guess it's 2015 when they started out 10-1 or something like that. It was Andy Dalton.
But it was Andy Dalton, so.
It was, and I will say this. We had our old buddy Spice Rack on the Around the NFL podcast last night. He said of that era of Bengals football that they had a Super Bowl roster and a wild card quarterback, which I thought was well put. With Joe Burrow there, though. Yes, this might be the most excited time for Bengals fans since all the way back in 2005, Claybon, when it was Carson Palmer, and they had a real chance to go to the Super Bowl before he blew out his knee.
I think since 2005, because even though they did go 12-4. It's easy to forget in 2015, but there was never the total confidence that Dalton could take you all the way, and Joe Burrow
he got hurt.
Yeah, but I just mean in general, even before he got hurt, he's sitting there next to Colleen Wolfe. And he's just got that confidence about you. And it shouldn't sway me watching in my kitchen at home, but I got to say it kind of does.
You watch in your kitchen?
Yeah, the kids' bedroom is over
What's your
there.
layout of your house?
Wherever you can see the game.
Look how happy these people are.
That one guy's going bananas.
Look at this dude. But he's about it.
I was thinking back to 2005 as well, and the injury derailed so much of that, and it derailed long-term hope. That's why to see Joe Burrow, he's not even 10 months post-operation on that left knee to play as well as he did last night on a short week.
They're no 2005 Bengals, though. That was a championship contender. That team changed my life. It made me realize I could become a legitimate fan of, not my team. I loved that 2005 team. I'm serious.
I know. You love every team.
No, but
Patrick, you're a man.
The first one.
You've dealt with knee issues yourself, so I know it actually connects with you in an even more special way to see Joe playing at this level in our league, as Troy Aikman says. Anyway, good job, Joe Burrow. Good job, Bengals fans. It's an exciting time. It's also an exciting time to be a fan of the Jaguars. By the way, we're going to talk about the AFC South. I know it doesn't seem that way, but that quarterback can play as well. We'll get into all that up next on the broadcast. Welcome back to the broadcast. We keep rolling through the entirety of the NFL. Up next, the AFC South. Greg, get us going on the Titans.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this week against your Jets is going to kind of test this Titans team in their star-driven system. I sort of was watching their second week, when they beat the Seahawks, and thought, oh, this is really a test, and how much can 4 guys carry an entire organization? Those 4 guys, of course, Tannehill, Henry, Julio, A.J. Brown. We do not expect A.J. Brown this week, and Julio also might not play. So what is this entire team going to look like without him? Because I got to say, I think Tannehill's played very well. The offensive line hasn't. The defense hasn't been great. And now what does it look like if he doesn't have those guys? Because it's a big drop-off at wide receiver.
It looks like Ryan Tannehill earning that love and appreciation that he has needed and earned by going out and completing bombs to Chester Rogers and like this touchdown to Nick Westbrook-Akine, who sent me scrambling to Google to try to say who it was.
That was good. You had me.
On Sunday. There's not a lot, and you wonder just how much talent they have had because Arthur Smith is not doing so great in Atlanta right now with the talent that they have. But this is one of those.
A little Arthur Smith drive by in a big spot. That was a surprise.
Maybe you could drive by the end zone every once in a while.
Hey.
So there's not a lot. There's not a lot.
Here we go. When we look at this matchup, it's a good timing for the Titans to get the Jets, who just lost Marcus May, their best defensive player in their secondary. From a talent perspective, I don't think anybody in the league has less talent than the Jets in their secondary. Robert Saleh, of all their struggles, they've coached up the secondary, and it's been okay so far this season. But I still think Ryan Tannehill will find some gaps here and create some yardage. But I think it comes down to does Derrick Henry run wild, and if he does, Tennessee will get the W.
They'll be okay, but then you got to count on your defense to make more subs. A.J. Brown hasn't exactly been productive this year either. They only have one wide receiver with more than 100 yards. That's Julio. So I look at these guys, and you're right. Westbrook-Akine has to step up. They got to get Ferkser involved. It just – I could see a little upset special here with the Jets. I think this is going to be a close one.
This is going to be one of those classic Julio games where he plays 4 plays and then comes out and then has like a 50-yarder and then waits until the third quarter and has another.
And you should know, I love my little Roto-World blurbs, that Ryan Tannehill has a, quote, ton of confidence in Nick Westbrook-Akine. Just know that.
Yeah, he did look pretty good.
Up next, Texans, Patrick Claybon.
The question about the Houston Texans.
That was a dramatic pause.
That was really
because of all the passion that David Culley and Mark Ingram are bringing into 2021. Can this Texans team win one game, without Tyrod Taylor?
No.
Can they win one game?
No way. I gotta go check the schedule, but my answer would be
how
no.
long are we gonna be missing our friend Tyrod, the Ty guy?
Initially, they said 3 to 4 weeks, and they're sticking with that. They play the Bills this week, of course. They're the biggest underdogs.
Take you through this
ever, or at least this season. Then you got the Patriots in Houston. Davis, no, it's not about Houston. And then you have at Indianapolis, but Tyrod might be back by then. But my answer is no, because it's so hard to play quarterback. Look at what Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson are going up against. You think Davis Mills is going to overcome that?
I mean, they're obviously not going to win this week. And Davis Mills against Bill Belichick, we know what's going to happen there. So, no, this is a tough spot for them in an organization that's perpetually in a tough spot these days. And maybe, is this a way to kind of circle back to appreciating Tyrod ultimately?
Yes.
Okay.
Ultimately it is.
Go ahead. The stage is yours, Patrick.
Because you go back to the Browns game, and we just
He's always hurt, though. I know the lung thing last year, that's not his fault. But, I mean, this is part of the Tyrod thing, too.
Tyrod has hamstrings, like 100% of human beings that have legs. But they were so close. We believe in that Browns team. And Tyrod, I honestly believe that they were going to win that game with Tyrod Taylor in. And we've seen the drop-off. Brandon Cooks is still great because he's quarterback-proof and he's going to be successful.
Wait, so you thought they would have beaten the Browns with Tyrod that game, but then nobody else has any questions about the Browns except for me? I'm the only one that has to seek introspection.
That's how much I love Tyrod.
It is fair to point out, you know how people do that thing, last year, hey, I got to say, hey, give Dak Prescott the MVP because you see what the Cowboys look like without him. The difference between Tyrod and the Davis, the people on the shows, on the sports talk shows, hey, he's like, I guess you got to give him the MVP. They're lousy
but which
now.
person specifically in what network? No.
Not ours. Never ours.
All right, Jaguars. How we feeling about Trevor now? I think that was a good night, Thursday night, for both fan bases in terms of their quarterbacks, because I know we got Burrow doing his thing, but I really thought Trevor, and it wasn't a perfect game, Greg, and I know I saw you on Twitter at one point saying that he was late on a throw. All that's there, but then every game, there's a few of these too. It's just like, it's there, and I just get this feeling.
This throw is just ridiculous.
Look at this. Look where he drops this thing. Look at this. And a great catch getting the feet down. But I just get the feeling he's going to be the guy by mid-November. He's going to be cooking, and they're going to start winning some games. That is my prediction. I know they seem messy right now.
I would love for him to do that, but there was a point in 4th and goal where we're running quarterback power. It was
that
like
was
a
stupid.
fake option toss.
They got to clean that stuff up.
Is that going to be how we use Trevor Lawrence?
He said he wanted to, and it did work for most of that drive, and then they tried it one too many times. Man, he throws a beautiful ball. You can see the athleticism. And the thing I took from last night, which I have been kind of building up this hot take, was like their line is playing really well this year. So there's a lot of things around them that aren't great. I'm concerned they're not scheming receivers open. DJ Shark is hurt, and so who is really going to be your downfield threat now? You have Marvin Jones, but he's getting up there a little bit. That's a problem, but their line's playing well, and if your line plays well and he's got that sort of talent, it's going to keep getting better and better. It was great to see, though, wasn't it?
It was great to see, and they got up 14-0. Could have been 21. It wasn't. Then the lead disappears. I thought it was a sign of progress that then they jumped ahead again, 21-14. They couldn't close it out. But if you're a Jaguars fan, you're looking for signs of progress, and I thought you saw it in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, there's no reason to be worried about Trevor Lawrence. You see it flash, and you see the moments, and you see the consistency in the drives, and there's points where, the team is – there's a reason they were in the position to draft Trevor Lawrence in the first place.
This ain't easy on Urban Meyer, by the way, Greg. The press conference we were texting about.
Man, I know. I had some fun with Urban Meyer over the offseason, doubting if this is going to work. I am starting to feel for him because he doesn't seem like – well, he's just taking this really hard.
I mean, he's lost 4 games in a row. That never happened to him his entire coaching career until now. Welcome.
Someone told him that he didn't force a turnover, or that they didn't have a turnover on offense, like a positive thing, and he just slams the podium down, just like, yes, we did it, but I let them down. And
I want another 2 minutes of Claybon having sympathy for Urban Meyer as well, but we don't have time because it's time for a health check presented by. You should have seen Claybon's face. Presented by Truth About Weight. Greg on the Colts.
I want to know what it is. What was your face looking like?
Urban will be all right.
Watch the replay of the show.
He'll still be cashing those checks. The Colts fans.
That cost you 8 seconds, by the way.
Don't give up hope. That's fine. This Colts team right now, not that interesting. I got to say, I've liked this Colts team for a while, but they're not doing much well. I'm saying don't give up hope yet because you can win this game this weekend in Miami. I don't think they're the favorite, but I think they have a shot. After this week, then if you can't beat Miami, then it's big-time trouble. But you got to start cleaning some things up, offensive line and your defense. Because, yes, Carson Wentz and his ankles are clearly a problem, but he's not the only thing that's a problem on this defense right now. Darius Leonard, Xavier Rhodes, Kenny Moore, they're all playing through injuries or they're struggling. So it's not the Colts that Phillip Rivers had a year ago.
It's kind of an admission to the construction of the roster when your quarterback has 2 sprained ankles and is playing that week. And that's after coming back from foot surgery rapidly in 5 weeks. There's a bit of an admission that they don't have the team that they need around Carson Wentz. They need him to do more, but he's hurt. And I just wonder, is it the right thing to be playing Carson Wentz right now?
Well, yeah, and we talked about the Patriots earlier. Even if Wentz was upright and his ankles were functioning properly, they haven't set him up with the right team, it feels like. They're not explosive, and that's a problem. So I just think, and, I picked Carson Wentz as comeback player of the year. That's not looking so hot. I picked the Colts to win the division. That's not looking so hot. But am I ready to put them underground? No. I think they're going to show up and beat the Dolphins. I just got a weird feeling.
Okay, and they've done it with this setup, the Reich-Ballard setup, where they've started the season slow and they've rallied. And I kind of trust the organization to get some things right as it goes. I actually don't think Carson Wentz has been that bad. He's been better than he was in Philadelphia a year ago. I think he's sort of overshadowed a really poor defense right now and other problems in terms of explosive plays.
And fantasy talk. Come on, Jonathan Taylor. And it's not just on him, but
5 carries.
It is not on him. That line has gone from one of the best to one of the worst.
All right, that was Health Check presented by Truth About Weight. We roll on the broadcast. Coming up next, the AFC West, a division that features the last place Kansas City Football Chiefs. That's true. Up next. Oh, listen to the horns. That's party music.
After it.
The broadcast rolls on. Let's talk AFC West, and let's start with, the last place Chiefs, 1-2.
So harsh.
Come one, come all to see the amazing Mahomes lose. What's going on here? I am not panicking here at all. In fact, I have everybody mad at me because I still think the Chiefs are a top 10 team. They are a team that will be around in January. But I think it is at least notable, Greg, that we've gotten used to them winning all of these games in the last couple of minutes over the last couple of years. They made a real habit of it last season. And this year, they're just not executing. So just a little bit of a funk here. Not a crisis, but a funk.
Yeah, I'm not worried at all. I still would put them as a top 5 team because it's an offensive league, and I have zero concerns about their offense. But you mentioned all the close wins. That's not a predictive stat to keep going year after year. And last year, they got to the Super Bowl for the most part by winning close games. It was not by blowing teams out, and it's a defense right now. You have to be concerned about the defense at this point because the defense has been good enough, and Spagnuolo usually gets it better as the season goes on, but right now it's not good enough. It's among the worst in the league, if not the worst.
It's not. It's putting pressure on the offense to do things as much as they can do that, right? As much as Holmes and Kelsey and Hill are capable of scoring every play in the fourth quarter. Having to do that makes turnovers like the ones that we saw in the game against the Chargers, especially the late throw to Travis Kelsey where Kelsey's in traffic because he's Travis Kelsey and there's 6 people around him. And he doesn't look at the ball and he stops running.
And here's the thing. You said it's not predictive, Greg, those type of outcomes in close games. But the idea on some levels, unless you have Patrick Mahomes, but that throw, that interception late that led to the game-ending field goal by the Chargers, or scored by the Chargers, was the exact type of throw that he's hit so many times to just kill teams. And, you're not supposed to be able to make that. So it does speak to that point, which is the margin for error is so small, and then you ask him to bail you out, and it's just not realistic to always ask Mahomes to make that throw.
And we kind of know what the Eagles are going to do to them this week. They tried to do it to Dallas. Okay, go down the field 10, 12 plays at a time. That's the recipe against it. But Mahomes can do that. I'm not that worried.
All right. Patrick on the Chargers.
Yeah, to the team that was on the other side of that. And my question was, because after the interception on the pass to Travis Kelsey, there was a 4th and 5 delay of game, becomes a 4th and 9, and the Chargers still go for it.
Right.
Ooh.
Did they go for that because it was Patrick Mahomes? Or is this Brandon Staley's team and his ethos, are they going to be that aggressive where you take a penalty and you still go for it, maybe get bailed out, but they can do it because they have Justin Herbert?
I'm going to Claybon you here on this one. I'm going to say it's both. I can't give you an either or because it's both. I think it was good coaching. I think it was Staley.
That's a Claybon is both?
Claybon wouldn't play along. He would say it's both, obviously.
That's harsh.
Well, that's in a loving way. But I'm saying that he believes in his quarterback, and he also knows the other quarterback in offense is unbelievable. I think it's a good showing for the team in general.
I think it was because that's how they're always going to move. I asked the question essentially to Matt Money Smith on our Thursday podcast. This very question, is this just going to be their attitude? I think it is because he has that much faith in Justin Herbert. That was the coaching move of the week. That really helped. That was the decisive factor in them winning the game. I mean, they got the call and you had to make plays afterwards. I think they are going to be ultra aggressive on 4th downs because I really believe they think they have their Mahomes. That teams need to play that way against them because they have Justin Herbert.
And people reference the analytics all the time as if the analytics is a person, like it's Skynet or Ultron. It says, this is what you do. The resources that people use suggested that the field goal was the right decision both times.
Right.
Even after the penalty. But he still went for it. And I wonder, I just want to know, is this going to be every week? Because Justin Herbert is going to put up bananas numbers if they're going to be that aggressive.
Now I can't stop thinking about T2 and then some dodgy old football scout going back in time and finding the dude and taking him to Skynet Analytics, and then he's holding the thing.
I don't know how much longer I can hold this.
I mean, if anyone's a cyborg, it might be Herbert. He seems kind of created in a lab to destroy America.
The cigar chomping, I played the game, I scout, going back in time to stop analytics is an amazing sports movie.
Because they'd have to figure out the time machine in the first place, and they'd be all dodgy with that.
All right, where are we? Greg on the Raiders.
This is why you hired John Gruden. Let's give him some love.
Yes.
This is why you did it. It's been a good offense, and it's become
why you lift all those
a better
weights.
offense. And one thing I've noticed this year is he's kind of laughing at NFL trends. It's like, oh, play action. That's cool. Never going to do it. Like Dink and Duncan, the quick action game moving up down the field. Nope, not going to do that either. Let's go bombs away. Let's make Al Davis proud. Let's bring it back to the late 1980s. And you got what was that guy's name? Jet running down the field for the Raiders. That's the Raiders right now. And it's all working. I think it's great play caller, great quarterback, great relationship there.
I'm just glad to see Henry Ruggs freed from whatever kind of football jail he was in last season, and he's doing more. Yes, we see the highlights of Ruggs running deep, but he's more involved in the offense. Of course, Darren Waller's always going to absorb 17, 18 targets a game, and he should. But there's just more from this offense, and I'm glad. I'm glad we're finally getting.
I don't know where Gruden obviously worked in the media for a long time in between his coaching stints. I don't know if he pays attention to things. He seems like a guy that might not. But if he was, I'm sure it's making this undefeated start all the more sweeter because there were a lot of bozos, and it was happening on our podcast too, and I'm sure I was involved as well at some point, that said, this is not going to work. Those were bad years the last 2 years. I don't know if I like this offseason. They're going to stink. And guess what? Not only are they 3-0, to me, this feels sustainable, Greg. I'm not saying they're going to go 17-0, but that they can win 10 or 11 games with this offense and getting enough plays on.
I think there's a lot of room for improvement on the offensive line in terms of the running game. I don't think John Gruden ever lost the ability to call plays and be a really good even
really
in
not.
Tampa, that I thought his personnel decisions were pretty rough, and I thought he made other decisions, but they always did well with the guys they had, and I think he's done that on offense in Oakland and now Las Vegas.
And shout out to Gus Bradley. This defense,
that's the difference.
Better.
Way better.
Greg on the Broncos.
Broncos, my team.
Many teams.
I'm going
to start a running list.
They are the team for this year, though, the Denver Broncos. And I've talked Teddy Two Gloves so many times that I want to give Von Miller some love. One of the great defensive players of his generation. We know how much time he's missed because of injuries lately. He's Von Miller. He should be like a Pro Bowler. He should be in consideration for All-Pro. I know it's through 3 weeks, but he is making a big-time difference. If you watch him snap after snap, against the run, against the pass, he is an all-time great, looking like an all-time great. Give it up for him, Claybon.
Yes, because we get the production stats, right? We get to see the sacks, and that's what people can love and appreciate. But Von Miller is this guy whenever he's on the field, even in the seasons where the sacks and the numbers dipped. He was always.
I would disagree with you. I would say his last healthy season, he was not that same guy. He was a very good player, but he wasn't like Von Miller. And he's talked about that too, and changing some things, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I will yield to you and Von Miller himself, but I think we should always appreciate Von.
And don't say maybe I'm wrong at the end. Just stay with
No, I felt bad because it's like I got some tweets. It's, you're always interrupting people, and then I'm thinking in my head,
nobody cares.
There I go again. I'm interrupting him again.
And remember, when Bradley Chubb was brought to this team, the idea was these guys are going to be the bookends. They're going to be a terror, and Chubb can't stay on the field. So that puts more pressure on 32-year-old Von Miller, and he is getting it done. That defense has playmakers at every level, but Von is the engine that makes it go.
He is, and you need that guy up front if you look at them, because otherwise you don't really have like a logical pure pass rusher. It's Malik Reed. It's pretty good. It's the scheme. It's the secondary. But you kind of need that one guy, or the whole Vic Fangio thing doesn't quite work as well as it is.
Especially as good as they can be on the back end. It was a team effort last week because I was wanting that shutout. I was watching because, like you, Greg, I develop an affinity for the Two Gloves Broncos, and it's like, the second stringers are in. Zach Wilson's going to score.
He was rooting for your pain. He didn't want you to get a field goal at the end of that game.
No points.
I had the Denver defense in my fantasy team, so I was fine with the shutout at that point. All right. Up next. Oh, man, NFTs. They are taking the world by storm, and that includes the NFL. We're going to talk some NFTs up next on the broadcast. Welcome back to the broadcast. All right, boys, we'll take a little pause here from going across the NFL. Let's have a little fun here. A pretty cool partnership. I mean, I call it pretty cool. Was announced this week. The NFL, the NFLPA, and Dapperlabs have collaborated, the DJ Scribble in the background, to create digital video highlights NFTs. It's going to give fans the opportunity to collect and own NFTs featuring some of the greatest and the most talked about in-game moments. So how's it going to work? The digital video highlights NFTs will launch later this season. Fans will be able to purchase and open NFT packs, show off their new NFT collections, and trade moments with other fans. You can visit NFL.com/Dapperlabs to learn more. So, guys, which play would you like to own, Greg?
This was such an easy pick for me. It was the Justin Herbert 45-yard laser.
Oh, yeah.
I think we got video of it down the field last week to Keenan Allen.
It's a visual medium.
This is arm strength in a play. Look at that. It was
It's a rope.
So it was overturned by penalty, which I actually think with the NFT things, it's kind of like, it's almost like that Billy Ripken error card. You remember that? It's like people don't remember this place, but this is just like football excellence to me.
But in the NFT world, do penalties exist? So it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it says like it.
No matter.
Right, it says the completion's a race. It's not a race to me. I saw the throw. We
saw it. We lived it, and the NFT preserves it. Patrick.
Yeah, forever. It's yours, and you have it, right? And nothing goes more to speak to a nice speculative opportunity than to get something unique, something that the world has never seen before, and that's a punt being hit by a flag thrown from an official right before Rondell Moore can catch it.
Give me that moment in my database.
It should have been a bigger story. You didn't hear a lot about this.
You didn't look at him. Look for the ball.
That's a bad job by the
He
official.
looked back at the official and he's like, "Come on, man," and that was it. Like, right? They didn't overturn that.
The official should get this NFT and then just hide it so no one can see it ever again.
Cliff Kingsbury said it was like the Twilight Zone, and I'm not going to say that because that would have been a bad hour of television to devote it just to that. But to the idea that I could own this in perpetuity, and I could look at that piece of video and say, "Hey, you know, I've got this."
That's a piece of history.
It feels like self-harm to just like watch that play over and over. I don't know.
Forever.
That's a real piece of history, Patrick. And that penalty play was pretty special too, Greg. But I'm going to go with actual history, NFL history. Justin Tucker. What?
Basic.
I don't care.
He had to crow hop to kick.
I honestly don't care if this is basic because this has never happened in the history of the sport. See this? You know how many games have been played in the NFL? 3 million in the history of the league. We just played our 3 millionth on Thursday night, and no one ever did that before. So now I own that. That's my NFT. So deal with it. Eat it.
And it won the game. It won the game and broke a lot of hearts in Detroit, which it added a lot of drama to it. That's not the same if it's like in the third quarter to go up by 20.
I basically kicked that field goal. I think that's how it works. Coming up next on the broadcast, the NFC South. Ooh, some spiciness in this division as well. We'll talk about it up next on the broadcast. Welcome back to the broadcast. I got so excited talking NFTs. I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to Patrick Claybon, but he is off, and he was great, and we love him, and can't wait to have him
Watch him on Fantasy Live.
And check out Fantasy Live with Claybon and the gang. Now stepping into the chair, Steve Weiss to talk NFC. What's up, buddy?
Hey, man. Thanks for having me back. This is great 2 weeks in a row.
Woo, it's beautiful.
It's a pattern.
It's a great thing.
And it's great to have you. We had you on AFC last week, NFC this week. Let's start with the NFC South and the defending champs, Greg.
Yeah, this week for the Saints, you could go into the secondaries looking good and the offensive line. But to me, it's like more than football. It's their first home game than Hurricane Ida. And I remember, Steve, you saying when the hurricane first came and they had to decamp to Dallas, that Sean Payton, not that he would ever want this to happen, but that he is the coach for this moment and that he almost was reveling in the fact that they're going to have a higher purpose this year, and I think that purpose kind of takes another level this week in this game against the Giants.
Yeah, think about it. It's their first game back in the Caesars Superdome with fans in more than 2 years, which is crazy. So, look, I was at the game in 2006 when post-Katrina, I was covering the Falcons then, when they played the Saints. That first game back when Steve Gleason blocked the Michael Kanan punt, and just the constant level of volume. In that it's going to be like that with this game because, yeah, we talk about the Packers fans being intertwined with the Packers in that city and the Steelers fans being the same. There's no team in the NFL that is more intertwined with its fan base and city itself than the Saints. It means everything. And that crowd noise to go with one of the best defenses in the NFL.
They're getting loose. The party started already.
It's on.
I mean, it's starting at 7 a.m. that morning.
When hasn't it started early, Greg? It's the 5:04.
Are we confident now to say that this is one of the best defenses in football?
Ooh.
That's where we're at? You said it, Steve.
I think so. Look, I said that coming in. It's been their identity the past 2 years. We've been caught up in Drew Brees because he's one of the best, and they've had some good fantasy numbers. Fantasy offensive numbers and fantasy numbers, but defensively, it has been the backbone of this team, especially when Drew went out, when Bridgewater had to come in.
The back end is really good. Like they play very well as a team. It seems like the greater than the sum of their parts type of defense. Dennis Allen deserves a little love.
DeMario Davis is one of the best defensive players in the NFL, but he gets overshadowed by some of the other great inside linebackers.
I feel like the Jets should have kept him over Avery Williamson, but that's a whole other conversation.
I had to bring it back to the Jets.
I had to do it, and I want to see what else is going on with the Bucs now, Greg. Let's talk the defending Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, I've been just trying to avoid the Brady Bucks thing. So let's just go into the X's and O's, because I think this is how Bill Belichick will play Tom Brady. Is he's gonna try to make them move down the field as slowly as they can, kind of like the Rams did. I think they do have a pretty good secondary. Are the Bucks built to play this way offensively, dinking and dunking like Tom Brady in the old days?
Yeah, why not? They can do anything they want, I feel like.
They've been all about the big play, and that's kind of been their MO.
And if it's there, they're going to take it, and it's nice to have an offense that can do that. But I think with Brady, they're playing at the level he's at, and now Antonio Brown's back from COVID. I think he's going to play into that as well, just being able to carve up underneath. I think Tampa's going to score a lot.
I'm searching for
I know, you're just looking to avoid that. I get it.
Keep them under 30.
No, the Patriots are going to get smoked. I mean, the way the Bucs got cut up on both sides of the ball, especially up front, what the Rams' offensive and defensive lines did, that defense, Todd Bowles, is going to get after Mac Jones. So I'm looking at probably two takeaways. But then offensively, they can dink and dunk. They can Fournette and Ronald Jones. They can Gronk. They can O.J. Howard. They can Cameron Brate. And then they're going to pop a couple over the top. I mean, I
think the idea is you're hoping for a couple mistakes. Gronk made a couple last week, made a couple drops. There was, one or two throws Brady didn't make.
He or post him getting his side absolutely butchered by
painful.
Kenny Young. Yeah,
that hurt.
Beautiful hit.
Yeah, I think I asked you on this on the podcast, Greg. I'll ask you again. What's the best case scenario for this Sunday night game? Because would you like Tom Brady somehow to get figured out by Belichick, who cooks up the scheme of a lifetime, and get embarrassed? Or do you want Brady to soar back in Foxborough?
I mean, the best case scenario is you win a shootout and Mac Jones is the one doing it. The one part I disagree with
but something that could actually happen.
I actually think this is the best matchup they've had, their offense, and that they could move the ball. Todd Bowles' defense is not playing well. They are not communicating well. They have reserves who are not on the same page. And I think the Patriots could score some points. That's all I'm saying.
This? You see this at
rookie
home?
QB. Greg, look, the best hope for the Patriots is rain.
I know,
All right, little wind, little rain.
I'll
take it. I'll take it.
With this program, you teed up the Pats and Bucks. You tried so hard not to see the bigger picture and how much this hurts you, and it does bring me some joy.
Doesn't hurt.
Steve.
They had to get rid of him.
On the Panthers. They had to get rid of him. We got to move on.
Hey, look, the Panthers were talking about how great, this defense is and how well they've played, and kudos to them. Some of the stuff they're doing up with Burns and Hassan Reddick. They played the Jets. They played the Saints, smoked the Saints, got some takeaways. And they played the Davis Mills-led Houston Texans.
Right.
Now they're getting ready to play the Dallas Cowboys. So now we're going to find out how good they are. I mean, I think they're going to be good. I think this is going to be a really good challenge if their defensive front could stand up. Because when you watch that game the other night, a very good Eagles defensive front got mushed. I mean, that Cowboys offensive line played with some serious, temperament. And if they can hold up to that this week, I think then we'll know really how good the Panthers are. Because I actually think they're pretty good. I think they're going to hold up well.
And we like the coaching staff led by Matt Rule, and they've had 10 days now to get ready for this game. But it is going to be whiplash going from the Texans with a backup fourth-round rookie quarterback to the Cowboys, Greg, who are humming at a level that we haven't seen in a while here. This is really – they can do it all right now. That's going to be a lot for Carolina and a lot for Sam Darnold to keep up with.
Yeah, I think if the score starts getting in the high 20s or 30s, I think the Panthers lose. Their recipe is for this Snow Patrol, Phil Snow's group, kind of like a college type of defense, which I think makes them a little tougher to prepare for. They're running some games and doing things up front, and I'm like, what are they doing exactly? I think it's pretty unique. But going against that Dallas offensive line and trying to outsmart Dak Prescott, good luck. Like Matt Rule said it this week, just how ahead of the game right now Dak Prescott is before the snap. So I think Matt Rule knows the challenge that they have, and I don't think good defenses stop good offenses in 2021. So they could be really good and still give up 30 points.
I'm glad you said that because all I've been hearing from coaches, week 4 is when things level up, right? That's when some of these defenses start communicating better, right? Then when they start tackling better in the open field, because you're seeing everything. The NFL is played in space, right? It's a geometric game right now. And what we're seeing the first few weeks, wide receivers wide open. This is the week when everything's supposed to level up. So across the board.
Oh, I like that. That's a new one. Yeah. Levels up in week 4. There's the old Mike Francesa. Hey, after Thanksgiving, that's when the season starts. So we have different
he's dropping the geometry. He's dropping the talking to coaches. This is why Weiss is.
Well, just because there's no preseason. I mean, this is supposed to be kind of like
that makes a lot of sense.
Everybody gets it together.
That makes a lot of sense. All right, Falcons finally. Hey, got the W, and I'll tell you what. Arthur Smith needed that one. Arthur Smith, they lost all their preseason games. They lost the first 2 regular season games. They find a way at the Meadowlands, and it wasn't necessarily impressive, but they actually showed something in the comeback in the 4th quarter there. And after the game, Matt Ryan, who'd never done it before, he had the game ball in his hand. He said, I'm going to give it to my head coach because I could tell it was weighing on him. It's a tough spot in Atlanta right now for the Falcons.
Yeah, look, getting that first win as a head coach is such a load because you're just like, okay, now I'm really a good judge. Am I good enough to do this? So getting the win, especially because they did show some poise late.
Yep.
Like you said, to the point where Arthur Smith now is growing a beard until
it's one of those things.
They lose again. But, this is an interesting team. They're going up against a Washington team that defensively, you talk about a defense that hasn't come together yet. This is one. So if they level up, if they kind of get it together, it's tough sledding because they still, Arthur Smith and the Falcons, have not figured out how to use Kyle Pitts yet. And look at Calvin Ridley's yards per catch. It's like under 9.
It's 20 for 175. You got Kyle Pitts is like, look, Kyle Pitts kind of won them that game quietly in the 4th quarter. I hope a light bulb went off that we got to use him a little more because you're right, Arthur Smith needed that one. He feels like a guy that you can see the stress. He's not a coach that hides his emotions very well, and he's wearing it. And, yeah, they won, but they also only scored 17 points and barely moved the ball against the Giants. So he's an offensive coach. It's killing him. They haven't hit a throw over 20 yards this season. Not one. They've only attempted 3, Dan.
That was not supposed to be the whole idea of the Arthur Smith experience. Maybe he's tense because the old man and FedEx and just deadlines. You need to get this done by this time.
What?
I'm
he hasn't been working for FedEx, I don't think, for a while or ever.
God,
you don't know about it.
You're bringing in the family
summer internships.
It's a lot of play action, and Matt Ryan gets back there, and then he just dumps the ball.
Oh well, Matt Ryan didn't have a whole lot of time. I mean,
right. It's a lot of dump offs.
Yeah.
All right, there you go. NFC East is up next on the broadcast. Cowboys seem like the clear best team here. What's going on with everybody else? Up next on the broadcast.
I really like the deadlines theory. That's good.
His dad just beat it into him. You must win by this date.
It's like you got to get there.
All right, welcome back to the broadcast presented by the United States Marine Corps. They're all in the barracks. They're watching us, and they're rooting for us. And we're rooting for you, Marines. Let's move on. Washington football team, NFC East. I picked them to win it, and a lot of it was based on the defense. And I had the nickname Young and Sweaty. More like Yuck and Snotty, am I right?
No.
What?
First of all, you
That
picked them
was
because
good.
like the Cowboys hurt you last year.
No,
You're
you
always
know what
like
hurts
when
you?
you're
That
on,
no
when
one
you're
will
off.
have a better lower third this entire show.
Yuck. I mean, that's
right
not
there.
that's not nice. That's not fair.
Not everything has to be nice, Greg. Sometimes
Montez-
you just got to call them out for not performing at the level that they were expected to. And it's not just those two guys, Montez Sweat and Chase Young. It's the entire defense that is just not doing the job.
Chase Young is not taking that leap. I think Sweat's played fine this year. Chase Young has not been a huge impact. You almost kind of heard Ron Rivera, I think, call him out. It's not his style, but he talked about a couple plays where the interior rush set up some things for the outside, but the outside wasn't on the same page. And to me, he was talking about Chase Young.
Well, and a lot of it's discipline. I mean, a lot of things you do, hey, as a great athlete like him, he may want to bounce it wide instead of going more upfield, and it breaks everything down. But the one thing, and kind of talking to folks up there I go again, Greg.
No, I like it. That's what we need. We're just analysts. We're ham and eggers. Give me the report.
It's all three levels. It's all three levels of the communication because the stud linebackers have been kind of all over the place in the back end. You know, they're getting beat at all three levels. So, again, this is where we're going to see, because that's a very fixable issue, the communication issue, right? If that comes together this week.
If they start giving up big plays to the Falcons, you kind of know what's going on here.
If they give up some big plays to the Falcons, then that's an issue.
Right.
The Falcons, as we just discussed, have not had any big
And
plays.
we lock a game up every week on the Around the NFL podcast. I locked up Washington because it feels like at a certain point, here we are, week 4. It's time for things to click in, and Washington getting a dominant performance from their front against Matt Ryan, who can't move. He's a statue. Atlanta's offensive line. It all feels like it's moving toward Washington having a nice performance, but that's all just in theory. I don't know if I'm basing it on anything.
But you're playing one side of the ball. Taylor Heineke's going to go ahead and carve him up as well?
He's just got to do enough. That's the problem. The whole idea
I've learned
of Washington.
in the years, try not to lock up bad teams. That's my
Is Washington bad? Is that where we're at?
They're not well.
So. I think
they're not well.
All right.
So.
Steve, speaking of bad teams, the winless New York Giants.
Oh, my gosh. You know, they're just – you talk about a team that's just self-destructing constantly over whether it be penalties and ill-timed turnover. Offensively, they've been okay. I mean, I don't think they've got the balance they necessarily want, but they have been okay. But they don't make plays when they have to make plays. No. And, and that's, you can say it's coaching. You can say it's just guys not executing at the right time. Maybe it's some of the new faces. But this now is becoming a repetitive trend.
Ooh.
Yeah, look at that play. That's a repetitive trend. And so, I mean, if they can't fix this quickly, then, you're already starting to hear people coming for Joe Judge. I mean, he's not quite on the green mile, but he's like,
They'll look pretty good for about 6 or 7 plays, and then you have one of those plays that explodes everything. It's the offensive line where they, to be fair, are missing 2 or 3 starters now. It's not having receivers open for Daniel Jones, where, again, they're going to be missing 2 or 3 starters.
Right.
Slayton's probably not going to play. Shepard's not expected to play. It's a tough situation.
And the Giants' offense, obviously, there are issues. I thought Saquon really, and he was the focal point of the offense. He was on the field constantly, and I thought he looked good. Maybe not all the way back, but I think he's trending in the right direction.
Daniel Jones is playing well.
But look at the defense. They had the offsides jump that killed him and beat him on Thursday night. And then last week, Adoree Jackson drops the interception in the end zone.
Could have changed
That's
everything.
the game.
It's the game.
That's it. And it's sometimes in football, it's as simple as that, executing when it matters most, and the Giants aren't doing it.
But look who they're playing this week, too.
Right.
The Dome
Very
Patrol.
tough spot.
The new Dome Patrol.
They are going into New Orleans where the crowd noise and everything. I'm telling you, it is going to be problematic.
It is. This is your punishment. If you don't find a way to beat the Falcons in your building on Eli Manning Day, your punishment is you get to go and be the sacrificial lamb at the Super Bowl.
Good luck trying to run
That's
on
your
that
punishment.
Run on that team. They are built to stop the run.
Yeah.
They're good in coverage. Like the Giants defense is going to have to win them this game, and they haven't shown the ability to do that.
Greg on the NFC East leading Cowboys.
Ooh, boy. Big test for Dak. Now, you mentioned, the Panthers are going to face their biggest test. I think this is a big test for Dak in terms of the defense he's faced this season. To me, he's kind of the master of all he surveys right now. He is I've been making this point a couple weeks, and now Matt Rule said the exact same thing. He is the new Drew Brees, Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, winning before the snap, figuring out exactly what you're going to do. That Phil Snow defense that we talked about throws a lot of different looks at you in terms of the stunts and the formations and personnel groupings. And so I think Dak Prescott can solve it all. But I think this is the biggest test that he's had this season, so I can't wait to watch this game. I'm fascinated.
Well, you know how Dak can solve a lot of that? Set hut, toss sweep to 21, hand it off to 20. I mean,
but he's calling those plays, and so I give him a lot of the credit for that running game.
Correct, because a lot of those are pre-snap.
RPOs, and he is calling the right option.
And, that run game, having that run game, and again, the way that offensive line bullied the Eagles, that Eagles defensive line is pretty darn good. And they lined it up, and they were hammering them. And that's just something that can offset and set up other things as well.
I don't think the Panthers are going to be able to slow down this offense. I think they're going to – I think when you go at the end of the season, as long as they have their health, and let's hope they do, I think Cowboys are going to be in the top 3. I think this is just especially, all the hand-wringing about Zeke Elliott, I think Zeke looks fine.
I think he does too.
And they have Tony Pollard there. That's good. It's good to have some depth and some guys that can mix things up. But then you can start heating up with Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, and Michael Gallup will eventually come back, and Dak survey all of it. Overall of it, this is good.
I do think the Panthers, though, at least early on,
look,
are going to stand up.
If they dog walk them, if they go up and down the field like they did against the Eagles, it's like, no, I don't know who's going to be stopping this team, because it gets to a point where it's like, remember Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady. It's like, oh, their offensive lines are good. You know why they're good? Because of their quarterback. Dak is becoming that guy who makes everyone around him look better. The play caller, the players. I'm all in on
all fired up. Wait, let me add the Cowboys.
I thought we were talking about the Panthers here. This conversation.
All right, here we go. Greg's favorite teams. I'm adding Cowboys. Okay.
You got to appreciate
they're going to be top 3?
You got to appreciate a man like who's at the top of his craft right now.
I do. I said they're going to be a top 3 offense this year. Greg, keep us going with the Eagles.
Where's the running game? That's what I kind of. Not just that they didn't call the plays, and I'm not like, hey, you got to run on 2nd and long. No, it's like, where's Jalen Hurts being part of the running game? Isn't that part of the reason they hired Nick Sirianni? Get a little creative. It wasn't there against San Francisco. It wasn't there against Dallas. What happened?
Well, I mean, San Francisco and Dallas has a pretty good run defense, but again, you've got to mix it in there just to make your offense work. I mean, you see some teams who are even having 60, 70 yards rushing a game, but the attempts set things up.
Isn't this what they do? Like Jalen Hurts, is an incredible runner. Miles Sanders is a great runner. I don't know.
And you can do some things, by moving them, protect them, keep defenses off guard. They've got to mix it up. And this is one where the head coach and the play caller, just that last game really outthought.
Yeah, I mean, it's still early. The Niners obviously have a great defense, and that was a bit of a street fight. Last week, Monday night was kind of a game script situation, maybe a little bit. I mean,
the turnovers
though, let things get out of hand.
It's like every week they've tried to have a totally different game plan, and I'm thinking don't. Why?
Don't. Too many young coaches do that.
You are really going to be tough. This running game should be really tough to defend, and now you're injured on the offensive line, so it's not going to be as easy. But use Hurts' legs. I mean, he's a young quarterback that does that so well.
And they've now, I think, lost an offensive lineman for an extended period 2 weeks in a row.
Right.
You lost Brandon Brooks. It's just a tough situation. I'm a little nervous about the Eagles now. I got to be honest with you. They're a team that they kind of reeled me in week 1. They look so good, and these last 2 weeks are like, oh no, was this a 7?
You get the Chiefs. Their defense is going to compete. I think Philadelphia, but everyone only competes so well against Kansas City. Can you keep up in a shootout? I think we found out the answer last week.
Yeah, and can you have the composure? That's another thing, too. When you go into a team like Kansas City, who has not shown great composure, that will tighten up quickly.
It's like they tried to go to, the advanced classes before just, establishing, this is what we do well.
200-level classes without the pre-reads.
I do like that. And, by the way, it's 41-21, I think, was that final. There was a fumble end zone strip for a touchdown and a garbage time miracle catch. That could have looked even more grim for the Eagles. They just did not show up in that game. All right. We showed up. We're here. We're rolling. Up next. Our jobs are a little bit easier, I feel like, than the NFL teams. But, Anyway, the NFC North is up next on the broadcast. It's debatable.
Give yourself some credit.
Welcome back to the broadcast presented by the United States Marine Corps. The NFC North is up next. Steve Weish, get us going, my buddy, on the Green Bay Packers.
Green Bay Packers, against the Niners, the defense actually looked okay for most of that game. I know late Jimmy had the drive, then with the Juszczyk touchdown for the Niners, but Joe Barry came into that game, the new defensive coordinator, a lot of stress because they had not looked good. They were dialing up pressures. They were getting coverages. And that secondary, man, Stokes, that cornerback.
Yeah.
I mean, that dude, they're really coming together. Now can they continue this? That's the thing, okay? Because Joe Barry knows what Kyle Shanahan does, right? Because he was with the Rams for all those years, twice a year. He practices against that scheme every day, at least in training camp when the ones were going with the ones. Can they keep that up? I mean, that's the one thing I'm just really eager to see, because offensively they're going to be fine. They're going to be good. But I think the defense and the consistency of what we saw last week, can that continue to build?
I want to see, it's almost two of our theories now coming together. One of your theories, kind of week 4, is when these defenses settle in. Another one, my theory, this is kind of one I've been testing out, Dan.
Sure.
Heard a little bit of it, is defenses don't, like most defenses don't matter that much. It's like coaches. Like 5 matter because they're really good, and 5 matter because they're not, and the rest, it's like you need players, you know? And I kind of feel that way about defenses. And I think if you're the Packers, like 5 really matter because they're going to be good. 5 are going to be terrible.
Just be in that middle.
Just be in that 20 group.
Right.
That's all the Packers got to do.
Yeah, as long as the offense continues to click as it has
But
last
you
2
got to
weeks.
get takeaways, though. You got to get takeaways if you're going to be in that 20.
Mix those in. Their schedule sets them up well for them, by the way. They have home against Pittsburgh, which is all sorts.
Right, you want to feel good about your defense? Play the Steelers.
Then you're at Cincinnati, which is starting to look like an actual game now. At Chicago, home Washington. So the schedule, I think, is favorable for the most part, and I think what we're talking about with the Green Bay defense, building off the positives, getting a Steelers team that doesn't really know what they are right now, that's not bad.
They have some great players. They have Jay Alexander. They have Kenny Clark. Eventually, they'll have Zadarius Smith. Preston Smith's playing okay.
Preston Smith is showing up. Stokes is showing, and again, let's remember, this defense last year wasn't that bad. People look at the playoff game against the Bucs like, oh, it's terrible defense. They fire Mike Pettin. No, it was a pretty good defense that they've got to kind of build on.
We have to respect the buzzer. We apologize to the buzzer. Okay?
Not that much.
And that's a we. That's not on you, Steve. You're finishing a point, but
we've done it a lot. We've done it a lot. That was a little rude, I think, to take our guest and slap him on the wrist like that.
Get a ruler out.
I'm not a guest anymore, though.
No, see, I think that's it. I think that's rude.
I've got to be better.
How about that? Oh, see, you feel good about yourself?
No, I don't. I have so many regrets about everything I say.
All right.
Generally.
Can somebody get a kind bar in here for Greg? He's lightheaded.
His eyes are rolling.
I'm serious. Get one in here, please. The Vikings, deal with it. Kirk Cousins is better than your quarterback right now. And then you go, oh, but I'm a Chiefs fan. Everything's cool for me. I love Justin Herbert. I'm a
little stereotype much there, Dan?
But I have to tell you, now you put me on the spot. No, this is just a roundabout way of saying Kirk Cousins is playing out of his mind. And I don't know if it lasts because he has, even though his numbers are always very good at the end of the season, he is a streaky quarterback. So he could go in the tank at any time for a month. But I will say this, when you watch that game against Seattle, and I know, Steve, that Seattle has a lot of problems on their side of the ball right now, so you got to factor that in. But that was so impressive what they did on offense.
It is so impressive. And you saw that they're spreading the ball out. They picked apart his own defense. Kirk Cousins. But like you said, he is streaky. He's going to give you 3 great. You're like, whoa, he's rolling now. Then you get like, uh-oh. And Dalvin Cook's the big issue. The Vikings, as well as Kirk Cousins is playing, Dalvin Cook's presence really drives his offense. And this week, I'm not sure he's
sounds like he's practiced and sounds like it's optimistic. And maybe it's a great situation where you learned with Alexander Mattison, look, we don't need to give Dalvin Cook the ball 30 times. Let's give Mattison, I'm not saying he needs to be Tony Pollard, but let's give him 7-8 carries and save Dalvin Cook for the games that matter at the end of the season.
They've tried that before. This team is so Dalvin Cook central because teams have to prepare for Dalvin Cook, and I'm sure
don't try to take the topic off Kirk Cousins, though. He's better than your quarterback. That's what he's saying. He's saying Kirk Cousins is better than your quarterback.
MVP. Why is he not in the MVP discussion?
We don't need to have. By the way, we don't need to have the MVP discussion. When I hear that now, it's like, hey, you gotta add Dak to the MVP discussion.
Like,
what discussion? What are you talking
about? 14 more.
Don't have it. Kirk Cousins is awesome, though. When he's streaky, when he's good, that was a Westism. When Kirk Cousins is good, there's not many that are better. And it's true. Right now, he's in that role. He's in that.
That is like such Andy Dalton coach speak.
No. See, that's the thing. Kirk Cousins is making his teammates better. It's not Andy Dalton.
How about this?
He's better.
If Kirk Cousins kept this up for the next 8 years and he went into Canton, could we put his Canton bust in his little plexiglass cube he's talked about? And then put that in Canton? He'd be safe that way.
Just like remember old times.
The Bears. All right, my overarching question, how does Matt Nagy make it to Week 18? And I'm not saying that because I'm hoping he gets fired. I'm saying it because, man, it's just a lot of bad juju around that organization right now, and he is the face of it for a lot of fans. There's an update that came out Thursday afternoon. It's a game-time decision at quarterback. on Friday. It's a game-time decision, a quarterback between Andy Dalton, Justin Fields. Nagy said, I feel good between Andy and Justin. I don't know, Steve, how you feel good after what we saw last week against Cleveland.
It's never a game-time decision, by the way. They know in-house it's a game-time decision publicly. They know who's going to start. Look, Matt Nagy's taken some well-deserved criticism for not having a game plan for Justin Fields. But look at this defense they're playing, by the way. I mean, not too many teams. I mean, that's a defense that's getting better. But Justin Fields made his share of mistakes. The way that Matt Nagy stays to Week 17, they got to win some ball games, which I don't think they're going to do in the division this week. I'm calling that upset.
Wow.
That's an upset.
They're playing the Lions.
Yes, they are. Ooh. And I do think the only way Matt Nagy keeps is if he finds some way after practice or whatever to come up with a workable game plan for Justin Fields, because they're going to have to steadily get him more and more involved, even if he doesn't start this week, and get everyone else involved with him, which is hard to do when you're game planning week to week, to develop guys week to week. But this is why you have passing game coordinators, special projects guys, come up with packages that can work with certain players. That did not seem apparent right there. And that's the only way he's going to make it to Week 18.
Right. He ran Andy Dalton's game plan with Justin Fields, and that wasn't the way to do it. I'm going to break some news, though.
Okay.
I mean, I don't have any sources. Never have.
You don't have to tell the people.
But I'm announcing Andy Dalton is starting this game.
I think so too. I think so too.
When the quarterback practices throughout the week and they're not saying it, then the change back is coming. He is starting this game. I don't need Ian to break it on Sunday morning. I'm sure he will, but that's who's starting this game.
And perhaps that makes the most sense. As frustrating as that might be for Bears fans who want to turn the page, well, if you don't have the offense set up for the kid yet, if the kid's not ready, if he's banged up after getting sacked 9 times last week, listen.
They're going to win this. I think they can win this game. Their defense, like you mentioned, they're playing pretty well. The Bears' defense playing well.
Steve, speaking of the Lions, you got them winning this week. What else you got?
I do. Look, they're 0-3, but look at that. Look at the schedule that they've played. Okay, San Francisco, Green Bay, and the Ravens. Okay, and you talk to people who faced them. They're like, you really don't want to play the Lions. Yeah, they make the mistakes to lose. Okay, they do enough to lose. But they are going to bang you. They're going to bite your kneecaps, and they are going to stress you until they're going to make the mistakes.
They're really biting the kneecap?
Right. Yeah, but I mean, they're going to stress you until they make the mistakes to lose the game. I mean, look, it took that Justin Tucker 66-yarder to beat him.
Yep.
And so I think they're more complete on both sides of the ball than the Bears.
Wow.
And I think that right now they are as many mistakes as they've made, a mentally and physically tougher team. So I think this is an opportunity for Detroit to finally get into the win column.
I have to admit they're well coached, of course, because I just don't see the players. You're right. The effort's been there. They've been well coached. I like the staff he put together. You were talking about that all offseason, that you really like the assistants that they had. And so you can see that. But I don't know. They don't have many guys that can cover. They don't have anyone outside who can make plays for Jared Goff. So I still think it comes down to players, and I kind of like the Bears. Detroit's
not going to have a lot of opportunities to win games this year, so you're going to want to get a W at some point. They already did the 0-16 thing. They don't want to be the 0-17 team. But I guess there's the conversation, and Kevin Patra, Lions fan on our show last Sunday, was like, he doesn't want them to win. But go get a win.
Well, you got to win one.
Especially, we just talked about with Arthur Smith, Steve. Get that first W for the new head coach. It kind of, I guess, refreshes the whole organization.
Well, I mean, it really does. I mean, you talk about an organization that's just neck deep in negativity. Getting this win right here, when you watch them play, and you can see the culture being developed. Yes, we laugh at Dan Campbell and all of the isms that he likes to come out and say. But you can see something in what they're building right there. And you're right, Greg. They are bereft of overall talent. But some of these things, if they can, overcome some of the poise and composure issues, they're going to win games at the buzzer.
Nice. And I would like to see just once, and I don't want anybody getting hurt or getting a tetanus shot, just one kneecap actually bitten before Week 18. Give it to me. Also, give me the NFC West.
Ooh.
Up next on the broadcast. We got one more division. It's the best in football, the NFC West. Steve, get us going. With the Rams.
With the Rams. Well, first off, Jalen Ramsey, right? We've used to seeing him trail DeAndre Hopkins, even back when they were both in the AFC South with Jacksonville and Houston. That's not going to happen this week. It may happen from, a play here or there, but Jalen Ramsey and what the Rams do defensively is really predicated on him playing in the slot, playing outside. Some of those outside linebacker tendencies, because you talk about putting a team in pre-snap conflict. That's what the Rams do because of him and his location. So, we're seeing the Arizona Cardinals, all these wide receivers doing well. The run game is doing well. You got to pre-snap read him some of the times to see which receiver you're going to throw to, and you don't know because he might be coming
that makes
blitz.
sense, yeah.
So I think, that's something to really look out for, how this Ram defense is trying to slow down an offense that's really hitting in all of its phases, except that O-line for the Cardinals is beat up. They're coming in really weak in there.
It almost feels like the Rams defense and offense, like the coaching staff, they're just like kind of flexing. They're just like showing different things they can do, because McVay is definitely breaking out a different offense than he's had. And now the way they're using Jalen Ramsey, it's smart. And it's kind of what we saw how they use the safeties. This is how you're using Jalen Ramsey. But the middle of the field is the toughest to shut down right now in the NFL. So put your players where he can make the most amount of plays, and that's the middle of the field for Jalen Ramsey.
Is there a defined weakness, you think, with the Rams on defense right now? I know the offense feels like maybe the run needs to be established more, potentially, but the defense, anything on that side of the ball?
Well, look, they give up yards. You look at the yards a lot, but, that doesn't mean anything.
They want you to run.
Yeah.
So they'll ask the Cardinals, at least their running backs, they'll be like, okay, you want 5-yard runs? Go take it.
And look, part of what makes this defense so effective is the offense is scoring touchdowns, right? That's something they did not do in previous years with Jared Goff. They were kicking field goals. So now you have the offense taking 14-play drives and 10-yard drives. So an offense like the Bucs, especially an offense like the Cardinals, if this happens, they can't get into any rhythm, so they're going to take more risk to match touchdown for touchdown.
You should be able to spread them out, though. Arizona, get some of those linebackers like the second level. The Cardinals are deeper on offense, too.
Good luck. Spread them out, and Aaron Donald, don't think he's necessarily going to run around. Kyler Murray's going to run from Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald, those guys can catch him.
They have such great balance, the Rams. Greg, how about the Cardinals? Let's talk about them.
I love what I've seen out of this offense this year. I think Kyler Murray has worked on some of the flaws in his game. Coaches knew it. Players knew it. He was not hitting throws up the middle of the field. He was very different than most quarterbacks. Now, whether it's a height thing or just, I don't know what it was, the play calling for Cliff Kingsbury, the receivers, he almost hit no plays up the seams over the last couple of years, and it's been a focus this season. And I just think you can see his maturation. He was a better rookie quarterback than the rookies that we see now, but he was hardly fully formed. And I think he's just way more in control. He's been in the same system for 3 years. He's got a few more weapons, and I love that you can see he has worked on different aspects of his game from the pocket.
He's special. And
he's special.
There's some guys that are just different than other guys. He's another #1 overall pick who has been making gains year to year, and then he had the shoulder injury, which has fouled things up for him last year. But now we're seeing him, I think he's age 24 season, age 25 season. None of this surprises me, and I think, again, when we talk about what's sustainable, I think the Cardinals are going to be a pain in the butt to all these teams because they're going to just get you into shootouts week after week. I don't think this is a fluke.
And their defense is going to steadily improve. Look, they're coming into this game with 10 sacks, of course, 5 half from Chandler Jones, right off the top. But people aren't talking about Marcus Golden and some of the stuff, all the edge pressures that they're generating, which would be very interesting because the Rams held up really well against the Buccaneers.
They're a weird defense. I don't know what they are. They kind of remind me of like old Greg Williams defenses where it's like it's either really good or really bad. It's like you don't know, like they're either going to give up a ton of big plays or they're going to stomp you.
It'd be interesting. Isaiah Simmons is a chess piece, him and Budda Baker in the middle of the field.
They're the team that's hard to figure out in this division. Well, I wouldn't say just the Cardinals. In fact, let's move on to the next team. This is the team that's really what is going to be happening come January with the Seattle Seahawks. Because tell me one thing the Seahawks do well on defense right now, Greg. One thing.
I think there probably would be tough to – well, they haven't done it well. I was going to say stop the run because they're built that way, but
couldn't even stop the backup running back in Minnesota.
No, they haven't done that.
Bobby Wagner's got an abundance of tackles. A lot of them are followed by first down signs. But
no, nothing right now.
No, they're just not. They haven't figured out. But again, this is just having covered this team for a lot of years. I've seen them have some very, after the first 6 games, we're like, what is this team? What is this team? And they settle in.
Right.
And they settle in. Yeah, they're an offensive-led team, but I just think they will figure things out with some of the personnel, to some of the things they're trying to do, and they'll settle in.
So your concern level, you think they'll just, because we were talking, Greg, your theory again, they're not a top 5. Right now they're playing like a bottom 5. But they're in the middle. But then the offense also has to be better because the offense has not been good enough the last 2 weeks in the second half. But also that, if you're really going to drill down on it, I'm not concerned about that side of the ball either. So that's why I do think I still see the Seahawks as a, let's say, 10-7 type team. And I think that will get you into the playoffs. But also it's going to be, I think it might be a tough struggle for them.
It's a big week. You do not want to fall to 1-3 in this division with a loss already in hand to San Francisco, who would be 3-1, with LA possibly being 4-0, or the Cardinals. One of them is going to be 4-0. That's already a big hole to try to climb out of. I think this is a big game for them. This division weirds me out, though, because, they all run the same offense. And so all the defenses are trying to run to stop the same offense. I don't know. There's something strange about it.
Yeah, again, my level of concern for the Seahawks at this point is just not great. I think they're going to be fine.
I'm with you.
Is there who's the team that you think is going to be behind them in the division?
Arizona.
Maybe San Francisco. I mean, this would be a big win to go on the road. I think 49ers aren't trying to figure things out offensively,
All right,
too.
let's talk 49ers.
Yeah.
And I'll set it up this way. We're waiting, Kyle. We don't like to be made to wait. I do not profess to know what's going on inside that building, where they stand on Trey Lance and whether he is the guy that's ready to play right now. But I am watching Jimmy Garoppolo every week, and it's not dynamic football with him at the controls. And I know you give him credit for what they did. They almost stole that game in Green Bay. And there have been stretches in each of these games to start the season where the offense has moved well. But we're waiting. Greg, we're waiting.
He has the best runner on the team now with all the injuries on the bench. The best runner on the team is Trey Lance. So that's what I'm waiting for. He doesn't need to be the starter, but I do think it'd be smart to use him more. And if George Kittle doesn't play in this game, and Kyle Shanahan raised some doubt about that, I don't think we'll know until game time. They're very thin offensively. He's a coach that likes to have 4, 5, 6 options for his quarterback to throw to. And right now it's like Deebo Samuel, and if Kittle's not there, it's like Ayuk's in detention. I guess we got to get him out. There's not enough guys.
Ayuk showed up a little bit. I mean, the one thing I liked what I saw in the second half of that game out of their offense, because they were finding ways, whether it's jet sweeps, whether it's some of the bow back option sweeps, whether it's throwing out of some of these things. They were spreading the ball. They looked like the 49ers until Jimmy had that.
Don't you want to see Jimmy, though, with that, handoff and the outside? So I want to see that 49ers offense. I don't know what they are if they're not that team.
Yeah, I mean, look, all the injuries to running back, I think, have hurt that. But, Trey Lance is not ready. And we can talk about the other quarterbacks not being ready. They don't have the type of roster that the 49ers do. Again, this is a Super Bowl type of roster for the most part. But they're coming together. I'm waiting, but I like that. I'm waiting for offensively what the identity is actually going to look like. We know what it should look like, but they are not there.
Well, but Steve, the padding of the football in the pockets of Jimmy G just drives me crazy. Pat.
Hey man, you got to get some wide receivers.
I like all this cosplaying we're doing as football players. I did the handoff motion. It was
like
very
that?
unnatural.
Stretch?
You're doing the
stretch. You want to pull it right here?
Steve actually played. He cannot be impressed.
I love it.
Cosplay. Hey, last thing with Steve here. Who's better? We're gonna give you either or, and you tell us.
Was that your Massachusetts dialect?
Who's better?
Yeah.
Tommy, he's wicked better. All right, welcome back. It's time for Who's Better, presented by Truist. And Greg's been trying to avoid this conversation really for 2 years almost. Brady
It's not true.
Or
It's
Belichick.
a stupid question.
Chicken or egg, Greggy?
It's like there is no such thing. There's no separating. That's the sport of football. I mean, like I reject.
Get him another kind bar.
If you go back to 2017, 2018, Chris and we would always talk about this. There is no such like either or. That's what football is. Like one does not exist without the other. I mean, if you have to choose, you always take.
That's not true though, and it's been proven.
What do you mean it's been proven?
Because Tommy went to Tampa and won a Super Bowl.
I guess
so they don't need to be together.
If the question is what's more important, a coach or a player, it's a player.
Okay, then it's Brady. Steve, you.
Brady.
But that's.
I mean, it's Brady. Look, we've seen.
But I still do believe like Brady isn't Brady without Belichick, and Belichick.
Let's see what Steve says, and we'll go back to you, Greg. You're in your feelings, and I love it.
I mean, I would say that, but I mean, are you going to say, okay, Mike Holmgren, Mike McCarthy, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers? I mean, are we playing the coach quarterback?
No, but none of those.
Those guys are not winning it without those Hall of Fame quarterbacks.
Right, but none of those had a 20-year unprecedented run that's not even remotely close to duplicated in the history of the league, and not even remotely close. And so that's both. That's both.
Okay.
The 20 years.
So you put like one of those two Packers coaches and quarterbacks in the NFC East during that time.
Mm-hmm.
They're not ripping off 20 straight championship.
No, because it hasn't happened.
It's
literally never happened.
The Vikings or the Bears were occasionally giving those Packers teams hell.
Give me even anything remotely close in the history of the NFL that stayed at the top or near the top for 20 years. There's nothing close. Yeah. The only thing is the 49ers, and that's with multiple quarterbacks, and even that's not that close.
So Brady proved he could win without Bill. Bill, you can't just judge Bill on one season because he needs to build something new. If Bill goes into retirement in 7 years and the Patriots are never relevant again, I think that tells you something.
No, you don't need to judge him on that. It's like, well, Red Auerbach never won with any other teams.
They're two goats.
I know, but the question is Brady or Belichick.
Well, I don't like the question.
One goat can be bigger than the other goat. Bah.
Sure. He's a player. He's on the field.
That was a
All right, weekend vibes coming up next.
It's like, yeah, he's on the field. He matters more. Come on.
All right, about to say goodbye, but before that, weekend vibes. Greg, get us going.
All right, we're vibing with my favorite short king in the NFL. That's Kyler Murray. His fadeaway, his backup is the most unstoppable playing football. This is my favorite playing football. Just Kyler Murray at 5'9", backpedaling, and then throwing it as far as he can.
Because he's got a rocket.
He's got a rocket. He did it on 4th and 3 last week, too. Biggest play of the game, he completes it.
Adding Cardinals to Greg's favorite teams.
No.
Steve.
All right, well, I'm going right behind SoFi Stadium Monday night when the Las Vegas Raiders will be coming to play a home game in SoFi Stadium because, guys, we live in Los Angeles.
Yes.
You know, the Raiders fans are going to be
legit.
to face the Chargers. But the Chargers are 2-0 on the road this year. They could go 3-0 at home on the road.
Are you going to be there?
I will not be there.
Oh, come on. You got to put Weiss there.
Hey, if you're a Charger fan and you're in this area, go for it. Take on the Raiders fans. No violence, though. Finally, Troy Aikman said this midway through the fourth quarter, Thursday Night Football. They're going to be the faces of the NFL for a long time. And he was referring, of course, to Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence. And isn't that cool? Because those are the quarterbacks of the Bengals and the Jaguars. And it did make me think about Zach Wilson and my Jets and Justin Fields and the Bears, two other teams that never have a good quarterback. Hope season when you get a quarterback that can play. And if you're a Cincinnati Jags fan,
no love for Mac Jones.
That's why you put the Jaguars in prime time.
Pats fans don't need a quarterback.
You introduce them.
Pats fans got their quarterback, and he's gone forever. Till next week.